We're going to get right into the first shocking thing happening in America's public schools. But first, I just want to give you a trigger warning. Even though all of this information that I am about to share is free for you to look up yourself, some people might feel triggered from seeing these articles. You might not like some of the things I'm about to share, but that is all the more reason that you might want to consider homeschooling your children. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first thing about America's public school system that you might find shocking. This article comes from Education Week, a leading authority in education. This article, published in November of 2021, has to do with violence and hate crimes in public schools. According to this article, hate crimes increased by 81% between the 2015-2016 school year and the 2017-2018 school year. During the same time, the number of assaults with a weapon in schools nearly doubled. Additionally, an estimated 20% of students in middle and high school reported being bullied in school. This data was all pre-COVID, and we have yet to understand the effects that COVID will have had on these numbers. However, according to the article, early data shows that violence may be on the rise. As for bullying, the numbers are underreported and likely much higher, as many kids being bullied are too embarrassed to report it. So what does this information tell us? Bullying, hate crimes, and violence are more prevalent than ever and likely to get worse in the post-COVID era. If this is not a good enough reason to choose to homeschool, I have more for you. This second article comes from the New York Post and was published in June of 2021. The issue of transgender students' access to bathrooms and locker rooms of the gender they identify with is a current hot-button topic. For many who are members of or supporters of the community, it seems only fair that a student who identifies as female should be allowed to use the restrooms and locker rooms marked for females, regardless of their sexual organs. And while I can see this side of the argument, we have to consider the comfort of all. Do you want your daughter to have to change in a locker room with a person who has male sex organs, regardless of that person's gender identity? I know I don't. And neither does the girl in this article, whose parents pulled her from school and are now homeschooling. In this article from the U.S. Department of Education, we can see that Title IX protects students from discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. What this will mean in the coming years regarding bathroom and locker room use remains to be seen. But we can assume that we will either be seeing lots more gender-neutral bathrooms and locker rooms, or more likely, bathrooms and locker rooms based on the gender that someone identifies with, rather than the sex assigned at birth. Whether or not you agree with this, you can surely see where there is potential for abuse of this policy. This article was published on February 6th of this year and indicates that the stresses and challenges of the pandemic are worsening gun violence in America's schools. According to a school violence expert from UCLA, the situation with regard to gun violence is only going to get worse. In recent weeks, school shootings took place on campuses in several different cities, injuring many and killing 2. In this school year alone, 141 shootings have taken place on America's school campuses. And even though some will argue that there is a difference between a school shooting and a shooting that takes place on a school campus, if one of your children is involved, the difference is meaningless. If the increase in school violence and the potential for more violence to come isn't enough reason to consider homeschooling your children, I'm not sure what is. Before we continue with the last 2 shocking things about America's public schools, I would love to take a moment to ask that you subscribe to my channel. I'd really love to have you as part of the community. This disturbing article was published last November and discusses concerns over a new sex ed curriculum in New Jersey. This new set of standards was issued by the New Jersey Department of Education and must be followed in New Jersey public schools. Some of the topics that parents find concerning include discussing the range of ways that people define their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior by the end of 2nd grade. They also include teaching about anal and oral sex in middle school. America's public schools are taking on the responsibility of teaching a lot more than just reading, writing, and math. While this might be good for some kids who come from families who are uncomfortable discussing topics such as sex. For many families, these discussions are better had at home. At least in my family, I would much prefer to be the first person to introduce these concepts to my children. I would also be very disturbed to find that my children had learned these things in school without my knowledge, especially at an age where I would find it inappropriate. Even though parents can certainly research this information for themselves, we can't expect them to know everything being taught in public schools. While parents are usually able to opt their children out of such classes, this assumes that they know about this well beforehand. But you know as well as I do that many parents will not be aware of their children learning these things in school. Yet another reason to homeschool your kids in 2022. And the last horrific article I have to share with you today comes from the New York Post. This article was published just a few days ago about the beating of an autistic boy. The title of the article speaks for itself and is just another reason why you might want to consider homeschooling your kids. The fact that this was allowed to happen even as school staff stood by and watched is outrageous. Unfortunately, in this day and age, school administrators are often afraid to step in for fear of lawsuits, job loss, among other things. Sadly, these types of stories are all too common. Violence and bullying in schools takes on many forms, and this is one of the more disturbing stories in recent news. Really, the only way we have to make sure our kids are safe is to keep them at home. This video was not intended to scare anyone. If you found yourself upset by these articles, I did warn you. There are many more articles like this that I have to share with you, and I hope that you will consider subscribing to my channel so that you don't miss my next video. As always, thanks for watching.